Once you begin to understand that sustainability matters more than hustle, another feeling tends to surface quietly: guilt. Not the kind that announces itself, the kind that sneaks in through thoughts you barely notice at first. It shows up when you imagine slowing down and immediately think about who might be affected. It shows up when you consider changing how you work and feel selfish for even listening to your own needs and wondering if you're being unreasonable. For high capacity women, guilt has been a consistent companion for a long time. We learned early on that being needed was a good thing, and that being reliable was admirable, and that being the one who could carry more was just something to be proud of. So when the idea of choosing differently enters your mind, guilt often follows right behind, asking questions that you didn't invite. Questions like, who am I letting down? Or what will people think? Or is it really that bad? And because you spent years honoring responsibility, those questions carry weight. I remember the moment I realized how deeply guilt was shaping my decisions. It wasn't during a crisis, nothing dramatic was actually happening. I simply was noticing how often I said yes when my body wanted to say no, how often I kept commitments that no longer fit my life, and how often I prioritized expectations over alignment. And when I finally allowed myself to imagine choosing differently, guilt rushed in to fill in the silence. It told me that I was being selfish. It told me that I was abandoning parts of myself that made me valuable. It told me that slowing down meant letting people down. That voice was convincing because it sounded so responsible. And what I had to learn, slowly and gently, was not all guilt was a signal that something was wrong. Sometimes guilt is just the echo of old rules you've lived by for a long time. Rules that said you need to come last. Rules that said rest must be earned. Rules that said success requires sacrifice, especially from women like us. Choosing differently threatens those rules. And when rules are threatened, guilt shows up to protect them. This is the part of the journey that many women turn back, not because they don't want to change, but because the emotional cost of disappointing others feels heavier than the cost of disappointing themselves. And yet, over time, disappointing yourself carries a quiet price. It shows up as resentment, as exhaustion, as a sense that you're living someone else's version of your life. And that's why guilt deserves to be examined, not obeyed automatically. I had to come to terms with the fact that some of the roles that I was playing were no longer required of me. They had served a purpose once. They had helped me survive. They had given me identity, but they weren't meant to last forever. Letting go of them didn't make me less caring or less committed. It made me more honest. And honesty can feel uncomfortable when people are used to a certain version of you. Some people won't understand your changes. Some may feel unsettled by them, and some may even question your choices. That doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It means that you're changing. Choosing differently doesn't mean abandoning responsibility. It means redefining it. It means deciding what you're truly responsible for and what you've been carrying simply because you could. It means recognizing that you're capable doesn't obligate you to constant availability. And that realization can feel both freeing and frightening. Because when guilt loosens its grip, you're left with a choice that requires trust in yourself. Trust doesn't appear overnight. It rebuilds slowly when you're in environments that punish you for being honest, that don't punish you from being honest. And when you're around women who understand choosing differently isn't laziness or entitlement, it's wisdom, That's why community matters so much at this stage. Not community that pushes you to do more faster, but community that lets you breathe and says you're allowed. That's the heart of VonSwy Recreation Station, a space where women who've carried a lot don't have to justify why they just want something different now. A place where guilt can be named instead of hidden. A place where permission is something you have to earn, isn't something that you have to earn. If you're watching this and noticing how much guilt has shaped your choices, I want you to be gentle with yourself. That guilt didn't come from nowhere. It was learned, it was reinforced, and it was rewarded. But it doesn't have to run your life anymore unless you let it. You don't have to make big changes today or explain yourself. You don't even have to announce anything. You can start by noticing where guilt has been deciding for you and simply pausing there. If you want a place to sit with that awareness quietly without pressure or performance, the VonSwy Recreation exists for that. You can come in quietly, you can listen, you can take your time. And tomorrow, we'll talk about what it looks like to step into the next chapter with quiet confidence, not bravado, not urgency, just truth. For now, let yourself sit with this idea. Choosing differently doesn't mean that you're letting people down. It means you're finally letting yourself matter. My name is LaTashia Martin, also known as LaTashia, and I help high capacity women who desire and yearn freedom and flexibility again and realize that community is the key to be successful with sustainability. God bless and have a great day.